Welcome to your Parenting Wins podcast. I'm your host, Iona Chisholm, and I am delighted to welcome a special guest into the studio today. I have with me Ashley Hall.
Hello.
Welcome, Ashley.
Hello.
What do you think of the studio?
I think it's absolutely amazing. It's got such a lovely feeling about it. And it's terribly professional.
Do you know what? Every time I come in here, I fancy fish and chips. And that's because there's a picture behind you, which is by Hackney Dave, which says fish and chips on it. And so every time I come in, I'm like, fancy a bit of fish and chips.
You've got me looking around the room now as to what I fancy.
There's a silver hippo head down there behind you. Have you seen that?
I have, yes, I have now, yes.
It's great, isn't it? Well, it's lovely to have you here. And of course, we met, didn't we, at Zumba classes?
We did.
And I guess you know that situation where you see somebody a lot and you go, hi, and you'd come in late, I'd come in late, and it'd be like, hi, how are you? And we'd go past each other and you don't really know people, do you? And then I guess it was about a couple of years ago, you came in with your son, Sebi. And I think that was the time when I really started to get to know you. And, this is what happens, isn't it? You can not know someone for a long time and then suddenly you make a connection. And I think, my admiration and feeling of you as an inspirational parent came from there. So I'm so grateful you've come today to tell us and to share your parenting journey with us. So, what would you like to share with us about your parenting experience?
Well, firstly, thank you for asking me here to Lichfield Radio,
You're very welcome.
Really, really exciting. And so looking forward to what's going to happen with Lichfield Radio. Amazing. What can I share about parenting for the Parenting Podcast? Well, I come at it from I have a very different experience to mainstream parents. Obviously, I have one child and he was born with a rare chromosome anomaly. We didn't know at the time that he had any sort of chromosome anomaly because he was born 7 weeks premature and was very poorly. But there was no visual dysmorphic features to say there's anything particularly wrong, but he was very poorly health-wise, so he was ventilated and he was in hospital for 2 months. And what happened after that, he didn't reach all the milestones like normal babies do, but because he'd had such a poor start, all consultants and all doctors would say, well, it's because of his poor start, he'll catch up. So it wasn't immediately apparent there was any sort of disability. What was apparent was the fact that he was delayed behind other babies.
Yeah.
So then, just after his first birthday, he still wasn't sitting up unaided and various things that other babies at one were. So the consultant said, look, we'll do some blood tests. We'll check for chromosome. And she said, I don't think we're going to find anything, but we'll do the lot. And it came back with Sebi's got a rare chromosome anomaly, which is a chromosome 8. It's got a terribly long name. And what that means is global delayed development, loose ligaments, low muscle tone, could have internal organ health issues. And so we were given 5 case studies in a brown envelope from the hospital in the post, of which there were 5 different examples of people with chromosome 8 anomaly. And all of them were very severely affected. I think there was one girl that was about 16 who had just started walking on flat surfaces only. There was one case study of a 44-year-old man who was in an asylum in sort of little brackets. So I said to the hospital, well, what does this mean? Is that what are you saying? And she said, well, is this? And she said, well, we don't know. We just don't know what he'll be. Obviously, you can read between the lines. And I said, well, you can't really. It's a very hard, dark place to be.
Yes.
Because how can you read between the lines? They're the medics, not you.
And also, how did you feel opening those envelopes and seeing those case studies?
It was a knock-on effect of what was going on, because the first year was a bit of a blur with Sebi because he was in and out of hospital all the time, and the next 4, 5, forever years. But because I had a phone call from the hospital from the nurse on the ward who we got to know so well because he was always in hospital, and she said, just to say about the results of the blood test, Ashley, can you and Craig come in? Craig's his dad. Can you and Craig come in and see if you've got an anomaly as well? And I said, what results? And the hospital had missed the bit about telling us. So they'd skipped a bit. They'd forgotten to tell us what it was, rung us. So it was like shock after shock after shock after shock. Anyway, you have nowhere to go when somebody says to you, we don't know, this is the prognosis. He will probably never walk, talk, understand the world around him. That's him. So faced with no hope is a weird place to be. But I think what you do then, you've got to find hope. You have to, because otherwise what else do you do?
Yeah.
Anyway, I spoke to an organisation called Unique, and they talk about young people with rare chromosome anomalies. And they had heard, they got one other lady in the country with a child with a chromosome 8, not the same as Sebby's, but similar. So I rang her. And she was lovely, but so negative. Her daughter was 3 years older, so I was really eager to know, well, 3 years' time, what's the comparison?
Coming?
Yeah. She was nice, but said, you do realise that your child will never do this, never do that, never do that. And it was like, okay, but he might. And that's the thing. You've got to never give up, I think. Because I heard the lady, I spoke to her, and I thought, I'm not going to ring you again, because there's no point if you're talking about your child, because my child's different. And I think that is a parent win for anyone.
Absolutely.
Nobody in life is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're mainstream, got a disability. It doesn't matter. Somebody with Down syndrome is not the same as the next person with Down syndrome. So therefore, there's pointless as a parent comparing. And I think that goes through all parenting.
Absolutely.
And even in my experience of teaching, I've been in schools for 23 years teaching, and you cannot compare any child with another child. It's pointless. It gives you the wrong feelings.
Absolutely.
And it can ever only give you some negative feelings if you're going to start comparing your life with somebody else. A bit like social media.
Absolutely.
It's like what, social media. So it got the better of me, and I rang her a year later, because I just needed something to think, well, what's he going to be?
Yeah. And can I just ask you, what year are we talking about here? So when was Sebby born?
Was born
and when are you
2003.
making these talks? Yeah.
So it was probably 2004, and I rang her again in 2005, and she said the same. Again, lovely. She said, he will never really be able to even choose what flavour ice cream he wants. And it was that statement that I just thought, you know what, I'm really never going to ring you again, because what is that doing for me? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And by then I was already looking at Sebby and thinking, well, do you know what? You are doing a little bit of that, and you are doing a little bit of that. So I had to then stop and think, right, what we have to do here is look at the person in front of us, and not look at any comparisons, and not look at anything on paper, and just live in the moment, because he is what he is. And therefore, if you live in the moment, A, you're never going to be disappointed, and B, everything's a surprise and everything's a bonus. And I made that decision then.
And do you think that a parenting win for a situation that you're in is to actually go day by day?
A little bit. It's hard to say. Obviously you can't really go day by day, but I think a little bit. And I think a parenting win is to never give up. And when something is thrown at you that's negative, you have to make the decision to let it go over your head. You have to make a conscious decision, because if you don't, you will go down, especially with a child with disabilities. And lots of people, totally understandably, don't get me wrong, I'm there, I'm with them. But I do see a lot of families with kids with disabilities, or even just a little bit of something in a mainstream school, become quite negative about it. And sort of what can happen then, I think, it makes you a little bit bitter. And you could be, why me, or why my child, or it's not fair, or things like that. And I totally get that too. It's hard not to when you're surrounded by all your friends and colleagues and peers with mainstream children who are doing lots of different things. So I understand it, but my own parenting win is to think actively and consciously, make it go over your head. Make that negative go over. Stop, move on. Absolutely just move on. It's not so much even pick yourself up again, because that means you're like flailing around and then picking yourself up again. Just don't let it take over, because it can so easily take over. And hey, Sebby's 22 now. He's still a child and will be and has, still got the future ahead of him. And I am still the mother of a child. I'm a carer. I'm the mother of the same. But he's just a little bit different now. Now I still tie his shoelaces. I still brush his hair. But now I've got the added thing that I have to shave his face, which is not ideal. I mean, that was the bit I was dreading. But, and this is the other thing. I remember thinking, oh my God, it's all right now he's a little boy, because he's a little boy and I can pick him up and it's not that much different to anyone else. And he can go to play groups and it's all the same.
Yeah.
What when he's 7? I remember thinking things like that.
Yes.
But 7 comes. And then you think, well, what when he's 12? What when he goes into puberty? What when this? What? But what happens is, actually, looking back, it just happens. And you just carry on, So you can dread things, the milestones of growing up, but they just come and go, and you just get through the next problem of the next day. So if we'd have sat here when he was 10 and you'd said, "Will he ever be able to shave his own face? And will he be able to do that?" And I'd be thinking, "Oh my God, don't talk about that. I can't face that. I can't face that. I can deal with it." But here I am.
Yeah.
I've shaved his face this morning. He's told me to get off because he didn't want it. And I said, "Sebastian, sit down, you look a mess." And then this morning he said to me, "Well, I want to be a hobo." That's only because he doesn't really particularly, well, he say a hobo, I don't know what he thinks that is, but he's decided just because he didn't want to sit still.
Yeah.
So I'm still looking after a child in an adult's body, but then he is an adult sometimes. So the parenting for me and parenting for you continues anyway, doesn't it? Whether they're at university, at special needs college or whatever.
Absolutely. Tell us about his personality. You've given us a hint about, the banter that you have. How would you describe Sebi's personality?
He is very positive because he doesn't see a reason why not to be. And that's a learning parent win as well. He does all his acts of kindness, as you know, and the reason he does these acts of kindness, and I watched him, and I think it's because he wouldn't see why not. Why wouldn't you make somebody smile? And that is the thing with Seb. And he's right. And I think I said it when I met some of the guys do with radio the other day. With Seb, he has proved that kindness is a great leveller. And I'm not here to talk about kindness, but you asked about his personality, and it's because of his disability, I think, that he's continued to do this. And it's because, like I say, I said recently, he did an act of kindness for the King. I won't go into that now, another story, but then he does acts of kindness for people on the street. To Seb, they are just people, because he doesn't put an emphasis on their social status. He understands, he understands the world around him. He understands that one might live in a palace and have a lot of importance and one might live on the street, but he doesn't care because he still sees them as people. And when I say to him, you cannot send a Sebi Teddy to Russia because he wants to end the war by sending a Sebi Teddy to the leader of Russia. And I say to him, Sebastian, of course you can't. Why? Well, because you can't, because it won't get to the Kremlin for a start, and it's not going to stop the war. Why not? Well, I don't know. And then you start thinking, I don't know, Sebi, why not? And then I say, well, because he said, well, I want to melt his heart with kindness. It will melt his heart and we'll stop the war and it'll all be all right. And that innocence to him is like, well, why not? And it is only, what he's shown us is the only people that stop you doing anything in life is either yourself, because you think, for whatever reason, I can't. And why do you think I can't? Probably because somebody else has told you can't. So it's that, again, with Sebi, people will say, well, as he grew up, well, he can't do that. Surely he can't do that. Don't do this. You can't do that. And then I think, you know what, why? It's only because you've said it that we can't. So let's have a go. And if it doesn't work out, we let it go over and we do something else tomorrow.
And it breaks those barriers, like you say, because I think Sebi is incredible with his acts of kindness, and you and Craig, as the parents, are the backbone of that mission for kindness. So you must have many proud moments. What are they?
Again, so many amusing moments, I'd say, really. Somebody said to me recently, well, it's you really that does the acts of kindness, not Sebi. And I kind of thought that's a bit mean, because what that means is they are, again, not giving Sebi credit. Do you know?
Absolutely.
And Sebi is a human being. He is. Why couldn't he be doing it? Why can't it be his ideas? But nobody. And that's people underestimating people with disabilities. Take it on a big, broader scale. Again, saying surely he can't do that. It's you that's doing it, really.
Well, can you give us some examples of these acts of kindness to bring a picture to what Sebi's doing? I can remember, for example, he came to our Zumba class with, a basket full of ice lollies. He wanted to give everyone ice lollies. And I know that he has collected Christmas chocolates or Easter eggs and distributed them to
he just said to me this morning,
people.
It's Christmas. We should be giving out reindeer food to children because every year for 5 years he makes reindeer food out of
the oats and the glitter and that kind of thing.
That's right. And he packs them up, he pours them all in, and we take them out. But last week we were at the Lichfield Garrick Theatre and he gave out 400 books to 400 children in the audience. And I said, well, we did it different this year. We don't have to do the same every year. He gives Kit Kats to homeless people and says, you deserve a break. He collects coats, and we've worked a lot with Home Start. He was given £700 worth of Tesco vouchers a couple of years ago for the Jubilee, Tesco Jubilee, but he didn't want to keep any of them, so we challenged the mayor to a trolley dash, and we had 7 trolleys. We grabbed 5 other people of the public and said, what are you doing? Have you got 3 minutes? Or whatever, 5 minutes. Yeah. And we gave them all £100, and we said, of vouchers. Set off now, and they went round Tesco's, and the challenge was they had to create as many full meals for Lichfield Food Bank as they could in that for £100 worth of vouchers. And basically it was the person that shopped smartest, and so it was like rice, a tin of vegetables, and a tin of spam, or whatever it was, but a balanced meal. And it was brilliant. He's done so many things. But somebody said, when will it ever stop? And I thought, well, it won't, because somebody like Sebastian, who can't read, can't write, therefore can't text, can't ring a friend, the people that he says he's helping disadvantaged people to stop being lonely. What he doesn't see is that he is one of those people. But he is. So he is actually, but Sebi doesn't see that in himself.
No.
So he is the person that he is trying to help in a way, because Sebi's isolated, Sebi's lonely. So when we all go out with groups of friends as human beings, or we have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife or whatever you have, why do you go out with friends? Because it gives you a warm feeling. Or why do you join a group to do dancing? Well, it makes you feel better. Sebi doesn't ever have those feelings. So when I watch him do an act of kindness, he's nervous as he walks up to the person. But once he's done it and they have smiled, that is the impact for Seb. It does create anxiety for him, and we do help him. And I wouldn't let him do it if I thought it was overwhelming him. But he so wants to do it, and he has bonkers ideas. They're all Sebi's ideas. They are bonkers, like Russia and all the things that we've done. India we've just been to, and the things he did there. But once he's done it, he gets that feeling of warmth that you would get from going out with a group of friends and having a lovely evening, or having a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, or just getting married on that day. He doesn't have that. So as a parenting win, to go back to the title, I think the win is to find something in anyone's life that makes them happy. So therefore, when you're bringing up children, instead of comparing to others, just find that little thing for them, and that's the positive.
It's the purpose, and it's the good feeling.
It's having a purpose.
And the fact that he is very instrumental in the acts of kindness. As you say, they come from him, don't they? And I was thinking it would be useful if you could talk to us a bit now about what's Sebi's weekly routine like, but also what's your routine like. And I'm interested in, how you and Craig have some time for each other or for yourselves. How does that work out? Because that's a challenge for you,
do a lot of
isn't
drinking
it?
wine in the pub.
Do you?
Yes, we do a lot of that. But his routine is very busy. And we're very lucky, and I would never say, oh my gosh, it's too busy, because you never know the day with an adult with special needs when there is nothing on offer.
Yes.
Because it's hard. And where do you go when education stops? the whole world is a scary place. So he's terribly busy, but he's still at South Staffs College 3 days a week, which is I drive to Penkridge or Stafford. He goes to another college in Stone, so we drive there from Lichfield. We've done that since he left school at 19. So 3 days a week we drive to Stone there and back. Then we drive to Stafford. Then he does a club up here, Liberty Jamboree. He's there at the moment. But I'm always clock watching. So I'm clock watching now because actually I've got to go and pick him up in a minute and I've got to take him to speech therapy.
Yes.
And as soon as speech therapy finishes, I've got to take him to physiotherapy. And after that, he's going to the gym with somebody because he wants to get big guns, as he said. And so Sebby's he said, for Christmas, I'm not having a Christmas list. This was this morning. I want to have big guns. So I said, well, we can help you do that. So someone's taking him to the gym. And the physiotherapists, fabulous people, they're meeting us there. They've done it about a month before. These are parenting wins as well, when you find the right fit. Because we've had physiotherapy for Sebby for years. And if you say to a 17-year-old lad who can't do it as well, who's got low muscle tone, loose ligaments, everything is hard for Sebby. When he was little, these toys that you get from Early Learning Centre or wherever, not that we shouldn't mention names, a toy shop or a children's baby shop, when you press a button, it's a cause and effect, or you press a button and something pops up. When Sebby pressed the button, nothing popped up because his fingers are so weak and still are and bend, nothing pops up. So therefore, he doesn't learn either. So you don't think about, it's not the fact that he gets bored of the toy. That toy is there for a learning purpose for a baby, cause and effect.
Yes, and he doesn't get that
There is
reward.
no effect. So why press it? You don't learn. So again, that doesn't help in learning development. Because all these toys of babies are developmental toys, aren't they? But Sebby, they didn't work for. So it's doubly hard as a parent because you have to implement how the toys work forever, even now.
Yeah.
So then you get to physiotherapy and you're like, well, okay, well, can you do this and can you do this? And he can't, so he won't. And you talk about his personality being positive all the time. He can say, he's not an angel. He's a normal human being who will say no a lot. And he'll go, no. Stupid exercises. And I'm like, Sebastian. And you know what? I look at him and I think, you're right. You know what? You're 17 years old or whatever you are. You don't want to be pushing this bit of silly putty.
And did you ever find any toys or exercises that worked?
We just found our way. Again, I could talk for hours. But what's been interesting recently, the physiotherapist is on our path, wavelength, and she said, you know what? This is ridiculous. Let's meet you in a gym. He wants to get fit and be like muscly, like people he sees on the telly. So let's work a physiotherapy session round the exercises in the gym, the machines, only very light weights because he could get quite injured. We'll take a photograph of every single machine, we'll write it down, and that will be Sebby's physiotherapy.
Sounds
not at
wonderful.
home, not pushing finger putty, which does work for some, or doing this with something that breaks. Sebby's not interested. He's not interested. He will stop and walk off. And so now he's got a new physiotherapy and he doesn't even know he's doing physiotherapy. He's going to the gym.
It's wonderful, isn't
like
it? Because
person.
it is fit what he needs.
Yeah.
So where else do you say you found the best support for Sebby at this point? You mentioned the colleges. Have they been supportive, and is it a programme that suits him?
Yep. And again, it's a learning that you never stop learning. And I think also I meet a lot of parents with special needs young people. Obviously, I've been thrown into that world. I didn't know anything before. Wouldn't be part of my life if I hadn't got Sebby. Of course it wouldn't, and I wouldn't know anything about it and probably pay much attention to it. But I've been thrown into this world of the special needs child, which is a scary place. And then at the start you think, okay, well, what sort of school or nursery? And I've seen a lot of people, having worked in mainstream schools and then got a child with disabilities, lots of parents don't want them to go to special school because you kind of admitted it then. And people say, is it the stigma? I don't know. I think that's mainstream people using the word stigma. There's a lot of labels going on, but I don't think it's stigma. I just think it's the fact that it's admitting it to yourself that your child has got disabilities. Even if it's glaringly obvious, it's still awful. Yeah. And it is awful. So the reason it's awful is because that their future has to be different to everybody else's. I'm not saying it's a bad future, but it's tough. And it's a fight. And if they can't fight for themselves when you're not around, who does? And then you're thrown into a system of people that are on shifts and don't care. And so that's why it's hard. So you put them into mainstream school and hope they fit in. But what may happen is they may fail because they're in the wrong place. So then you think, well, okay, we'll I don't mean fail. That's ridiculous. Don't reach their true potential. You might get a really good Senko in a mainstream school, and that's great. But really, if they then go to, and everyone's different and every spectrum's different, so a lot of people with disabilities and neurodiversity get on very well in mainstream schools. But if that's not enough for them, they go to a special school. And then you think, okay, well, at special school now, you can breathe. But just because all these young people are in a special school doesn't mean to say they're all going to fit in together. Probably not. Because if you've got lots of neurodiversity, if I'm neurodiverse and you're neurodiverse and he's neurodiverse, it's a lot harder for us to find our balance between the three of us, let's say.
And it goes back to what you said right at the beginning, that every child is an individual, no matter what.
Yeah. So you've got to fight, and then you find you never find your tribe, because every single parent there is fighting for their own. And every single person is so different that they don't fit into any box. But if you find the right staff, I think that's the way. I remember when he was diagnosed, he was very poorly. And the consultant had said to me, we've done everything we can. The machines are working, but we can't do any more. Just start praying. That was day 2. And that was her words, just start praying. Nothing else we can do. Gosh. Anyway, he did live. And on about week 7, I just said, oh my God. Because what happens in a neonatal unit is you become institutionalised into that place. And although you would never wish for your child to be in a neonatal unit, when you're in there, again, that's a dread, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
But actually, when you're in there, it's actually not that bad, and it's quite comforting because the doctors will say to you, I think, oh my God, all the babies, they're all going to die. And they're not. They all come out eventually. It might take time. So once you're told that, it's then, all right, then it's a happy place. And then you are cared for. So the first 2 months of Sebi's life, everybody would say to me, oh my God, he's in hospital and this, that and the other. But actually, I had a laugh with the nurses. They kept telling me he's going to be all right. And I was looked after.
And I think, what you're bringing up again is the hope. And, you've brought so much positivity today, and I know you were doubting what you could bring to Parent Wins, but you are absolutely incredible. You are a parenting win, just sitting there opposite me. I am full of inspiration for you, and I can't thank you enough for coming in, Ashley. And in front of you, I mentioned today maybe one of us would bring in an object, and I have brought in an object for you.
If you would like thank you. I'm so glad you did, because I forgot.
That's okay. You've given enough. You're totally forgiven. So it's a little gift. I saw it and thought of you.
I have to find my reading glasses.
You can put on your glasses, and then you can maybe tell us what it is there.
Is this a gift from you?
It's a gift from me.
Okay.
For you.
Oh.
And it's a glass jam jar, and it's got flowers painted on the front. And I think from memory it says Blooming Marvellous Mum on the front.
It says, to Ashley, saw this and thought of you, lots of love, Iona. And it says, an awesome just for a mum like you. And in it says Blooming Marvellous. And I think, Iona, it's got lights in it.
It has. You can open the top. I have put batteries in, and you can switch on the top and it lights up. And what I wanted to give you was permission to have a moment to look at that and pat yourself on the back, because Ashley, you're an inspiration. I look at you, and to me, you represent courage, braveness and generosity in sharing what you have with us today. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I am delighted to come on. I'm delighted to support you.
Well, thank you.
Lovely
That's
lady.
lovely.
And also support this lovely radio station. And thank you for
and
this.
It looks lovely with the sort of lights, as we have them fairly dimmed in the studio. You can see your fairy lights.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I love fairy lights. Fairy lights are my favourite thing in the world.
Well,
fairy lights are my favourite thing. I'm really happy.
I feel like that's a tick. Well, I like to end my podcast with some quotes, and I'm just hoping that the quotes I've chosen today sum up the power and meaning that you've brought to today's broadcast. So Robert Hensel from New York was born with spina bifida. He's also a Guinness World Records holder for the longest non-stop wheelie in a wheelchair. I find this mind-blowing. 6.178 miles Isn't that extraordinary? And he said...
That's bonkers.
It is bonkers, isn't it? I've no idea. We
Really
need to look it up,
long hill.
don't we? Well, I don't know.
Isn't it? It must be a really
they must have
long
cleared
hill.
the roads, mustn't they? But
Yeah.
he said something which I think is so appropriate for Sebi, and that is, know me for my abilities, not my disability. And I think we've learned today Sebi's an incredible young man, and I'm hoping that you will come back again yourself and with Sebi and Craig, because I think you have a wonderful inspirational story to share. And now a quote from Penelope Leach, who is a renowned British child psychologist, a researcher and author. And she says, the key to effective parenting is not always knowing what to do, but rather being willing to learn and adjust along the way. And I feel that picks up to you on how you've explained your journey.
Yes, 100%. There's
I
no
hope
book
you like
is
that
there for
quote.
anyone.
No. Well, those quotes I felt were for other people, but these quotes are for you, Ashley, because you are incredible and you're an inspiration. And these quotes I've got from the book from R.J. Palacio called Wonder. And the quotes come from the character August Oggy Pullman, who had Treacher-Collins syndrome. And that affects the development of facial bones and tissues. And he said, my mom smiled at me. Her smile kind of hugged me. And it just made me think that sometimes you don't need words, and perhaps with special needs children, there often isn't an opportunity for words, but that smile, that connection is a hug. And I feel that, that is you and Sebi. And then this quote's also from the book, which again, I think of you with your parenting. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are the qualities that define us as human beings and propel us on occasion to greatness. So that's for you. Along with this anonymous quote, successful mothers are not the ones that have never struggled. They are the ones that never give up despite the struggles. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ashley. You've really shared so much. You've been so generous. And I think there'll be so many people so grateful for you. So thank you for sharing the story to people that don't have children with disabilities, to explain what your life is like and to help people to understand. But also thank you for sharing your story for families that do have children with disabilities that will be listening to this, understanding exactly how you feel and not feeling alone. So thank you from all of them. And if anyone wants to get in touch and say thank you to Ashley, please do get in touch at the Parenting Podcast Instagram address, which is at Parenting Wins Podcast. And I'd be really happy to pass on those messages to you. So as we say, parenting is a real roller coaster, but it's a lot easier if we ride it together, supporting each other. So with my thanks to Ashley for really being such an inspiration today, this is your host, Iona Chisholm, saying goodbye.